Morning. How's everybody doing today? Good. Yeah. Good to see you. I don't know if any of you were watching the news this morning, but one of the lead stories was about Catherine Zeta-Jones and how her dealing with bipolar disorder. And I just noticed, like, some of the morning show people, they were like, wow, you know, and it was really one of those strange kind of, they're really just not sure what to say, like and it seems, and I'm really glad that somebody can be open about it, and that's great. But unfortunately, most of the stories are, there's such a variety of ways that they can cover it. So when, for example, Britney Spears was going through a lot of her issues a few years ago, there were so many sarcastic headlines and, you know, TMZs following her with the cameras, or more recently you have Charlie Sheen, who's, you know, obviously dealing with very big addiction issues and among other things, and I'm wondering if By Winning will be included in the DSM anytime soon. But anyway, but that's the first thing I just wanted to talk about, was that sort of media fracture and how there's so many different ways that it seems to be portrayed, and internet usage has finally surpassed TV watching. So now we have so many different things like Facebook and Twitter, and how are people consuming their media, how are people getting in touch with that. And there's so much subtle stigma that comes with some of those things. When we see movies, for example, I went to see Sucker Punch recently, and there's a lot of really outmoded portrayals of what mental illness looks like, and yeah. Anyway, I'm really getting off track starting, so sorry for that. But that's what I'm really here for, is the lived experience. But I mean, a lot of people live through media, and that's sort of how I wanted to connect with that. But I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you for having me here, and please keep me on track if I'm going over my time. If I'm starting to ramble, just let me know. But when it comes to my lived experience, when I was about 17 years old, I was in my final year of high school, and things weren't quite right. I was obviously dealing with depression my first semester, and you know, I didn't really recognize it as much as the people around me did. But it became a little bit more clear sort of after Christmas break and leading into March, where I was feeling really good, really sort of elated, and I ended up in the hospital, and it was really strange because I didn't realize that this was something that people dealt with, and then of course after you're dealing with this, you know, your family's like, well, actually, and they go, well, your great grandmother, she had schizophrenia, but you know, we don't usually talk about that, but you know, now that you're dealing with this, you know, that's there, you know? So it's like, well, why didn't you tell me before? Like, why didn't you let me know that this was something that I might have to deal with? And I'm really hoping that we're moving into a more open place where people can be more open about it. But for me, it was a very public kind of thing, because I was in school, I was in this classroom, and I was dealing with all these things, and I sort of got up, and I hadn't slept in a couple of days, so, you know, I'm just sort of going off the rails in front of everybody. And yeah, so I ended up in the hospital after that. So, you know, I'm in hospital for a couple of weeks, and I had to come back to school to, you know, try to keep my education on track. And sort of, you know, you can feel rumors sort of flying around the hallways about what's going on with Aaron, right? Because up till now, it just seemed pretty normal, and now here I am in this situation, and even some of my friends are like, you know, I don't understand, man. Like, why is this happening to you? Like, what makes you different? What's, you know, why are you there, and why am I not there? You know, like I got that feedback from a few people, because it's a very similar thing that was going on with other people, but not as exacerbated, you might say. Anyway. After that, you know, I spent about 3 months in the hospital, sort of over a 6 or 7 month period, because I was in for about 2 months, finally finished school. I took a semester off because I got to graduate, So I took a semester off after and then did some upgrading later. But in the middle there, I ended up in the hospital again because I decided to stop taking my medication. I didn't think it was working for me. So I ended up back in the hospital. And that was a learning experience that in that time, yeah, well, you know, if I can take this pill and it can afford me to be able to function like other people, you know, that's something that I'll do. Anyway, I ended up going to massage therapy school, of all things. I did 2 years there, and it was a really great experience. But after I was done, I didn't see myself doing it as a career. It's a really great hobby. But so I worked sort of all these different odd jobs. I worked at a call center. You know, I worked for a website for a while. Like all these different things are going on. But in the middle there, I heard about Laing House, which is a drop-in center for youth with mental illness. So I ended up going to Laing House, making a lot of friends there, and I kept going back because it offered a lot of opportunities to be part of things, you know, sit on hiring committees, and also like just being able to go play ultimate frisbee, you know, with some friends, you know, that kind of stuff. And also, I think it was around 2005 or 2006, they had this other thing called the Project through Laing House, which was we got to go to this place called Windhorse Farm, which is like a Buddhist farm, and it was just really great. We got to do sailing with the Nova Scotia Sea School. So all these really great experiences. Yeah, and it was really great at that time too because my dad had been diagnosed with cancer. So he was really getting sick really fast, and I had all this grief, and I didn't know how to deal with it. But having this project there that, you know, gave me all these mindfulness techniques, all of that stuff was really helpful in dealing with what was going on. Because he was diagnosed in February and he passed away in October, so it was really quick. Yeah, so, you know, still trying to get my life on track. I ended up being on disability, so and that's a really hard situation too because you're so poor. And, you know, they give you like just enough money to get by, and and you feel really, really bad. And like, speaking of stigma, like, you know, walking in every month and having to put your little form in the slot, like it's really a stigmatizing experience. Anyway, after a while, I decided to go back to school. I lived down in the valley, you know, which is not too far from Halifax. And I was doing the Human Services program at NSCC. But also, at the same time, I was working as a patient's rights advisor. So that was a good experience, too, to go into the hospitals, talk to people who are acutely dealing with mental illness, and just let them know what their rights are. So, you know, they know that this isn't 1984, you're not being brought down by the thought police. You know, you do have rights, and here's what they are. And yeah, so that was an interesting experience as well. But a little side note on that, we started doing the patient rights thing, I think it was July 2007. And we did a 6-month review. And on the day that I was going to talk to people for the 6-month review, on the bus, on the way over, I was going over the bridge, and the first person that I saw as a patient rights advisor was being talked down off of the bridge on my way over. So that was one of those experiences where it's like, you know, we're out there and we're trying to do good, and people are still dealing with a lot of suffering. So trying to relieve that in so many different ways. Where am I in my story? Anyway, I moved back to the city. I had this girlfriend. It didn't work out, so, you know, that was really stressful. School wasn't working out either, so that was really stressful. You know, I did my first year. My second year wasn't going as well. The program wasn't what I thought it was. A lot of the people weren't that great, so it was a hard experience, even though my professor was somebody who used to work at Laing House, so I had that sort of connection there. There always seems to be these weird connections. So I decided not to continue. A friend of mine, he bought a house that fall, so I ended up renting a room from him, sort of, you know, regrouping. And I met a new girlfriend, and she's been really wonderful. We actually just moved in together in February, so we're going really strong that way. Around that same time, though, I decided to stop taking my medication. So this would have been October 2009. So yeah, it was a decision I had to make on my own. I really felt the services that I was being offered was only one path, and I thought there were other paths, and I decided to take them. And I feel really bad because here I am trying to tell people about being healthy and tell people about, receiving help, and here I am doing it on my own. And it's one of those choices I had to make because I felt there's another way to do this. There's a better way to do this for me. And but I always tell people, like, medication has its place, but it shouldn't be one of those things that we create that dependence upon. And I think at some point, people just have to move forward in a different way, in whatever outlet they can find for that. So I mean, I have really good family support. Like, I really couldn't be here where I am without my family. I couldn't be here without all the dense social network of friends that I have. So those are all really good determinants of health as well. Anyway, last year I did a month-long retreat at Windhorse Farm. Actually, it was called the Forest Stillness Internship. So it was a lot of meditating and a lot of like hard work. So chopping wood and hauling brush and that kind of stuff. So it was a good experience that way because it gave me a chance to really recharge and to really heal, I felt. Yeah, and then, working different odd jobs as well. So I'm on the Youth Council for the Mental Health Commission, so doing some traveling with that, going to meetings and talking to people from all across the country, which is a really good experience. But I had a few other jobs. I worked doing promotions for TD Bank. I worked as a canvasser for the Red Cross, so I'm on the street asking people for money for the Red Cross. So that was an interesting experience as well, but unfortunately with that I needed to make this certain quota. And I didn't make my quota for the second week or whatever, and they're like, we really like you, you're really great, but unfortunately we can't keep you on. The day after that happened, I got an email from somebody from Laing House, and he said, there's this peer support position. I don't know if you're interested in that, but it's like, yes, I'm very interested in that. So I've been working there since November, and it's a really great experience because I get to be in this role of somebody who used to be a member at Laing House. People can see that and see that, recovery is possible. People can move forward, and last week on Thursday for work, we went to see the T-Rex exhibit, and then we went for ice cream. So that's the kind of work that I do. And it's not always wine and roses. Like, some days you'll be like right at the end of the day, and somebody will pull you aside and say, "I'm thinking about killing myself," and you have to be like, "Well, okay, let's talk about that." So yeah, it's one of those things where you see people every day who are going through all these different things. They're in group homes. They're dealing with delusions and hallucinations on a daily basis, and just trying to be resilient and to get beyond that. I wanted to end with two stories. I don't know if any of you have heard about a program called Youth Speak through Laing House, but basically what we do is we go into high schools, into junior highs. We also talk to university classes of all kinds, so med students, nursing students, pharmacology students, whatever. And we just tell them basically this kind of stuff. Like if it's a younger class, we educate them a little bit about mental health, mental illness, and then we sort of disclose and tell our stories. Which is interesting because another stat too is that children as young as in grade 3 already have negative views of people with mental illness. So we really, if that's the one thing I gotta say, we gotta get in the schools and talk to people about this, because I mean, they're already sitting there, they're probably pretty bored, so let's come in there with a really engaging thing and let them know about that. Anyway, a couple years ago when I was doing Youth Speak, I got to go to my high school and stand in the exact same classroom where I had my breakdown and talk to people about mental health. So it's interesting seeing that that same room can be a place where I'm dealing with this stuff and rumors start, so stigma's perpetuated, and then to come full circle and be there and to be sort of demystifying mental illness is a very interesting experience for me. And also, when I was down in the Valley, I was volunteering at the Canadian Mental Health Association branch down there. And one of the girls who works at the office, her brother-in-law was the first nurse that I saw when I was in the IWK, which is the mental health facility down in Halifax. And he just happened to be in the office one day when I had my youth group there. So I said, well, today, people, we have a very special guest, and I sat him down and basically did like an interview with him about what he saw in the mental health system and the different changes that he's seen in his time. And one of the things he really said was that he really wasn't happy with some of the changes that were made, and he was about to retire, and you could tell he had that look on his face like, oh, I'm getting too old for this. But it was really interesting to be in that role, for him to see me in that role where I've gone through the system and now I'm doing better. And also too, some of the people in the youth group had also been at the IWK, so they'd seen him in a sort of in a generational capacity, like they would be another wave coming through the system. So yeah, I think there's a lot of chance for positive happenings. I think we can really transform things, but we really sometimes just have to stop talking about it and do something. And we need to inform the people who are at the front line. We need to give them as many tools as they can carry to relieve the ignorance, because that's really at the root of this, is that people just don't know. And we have all this media, we have all these tools, so if we can just transform them a little into things that are less reaction-oriented and more informing people of what the actual case is, I think that would be a really good way to move forward. But also, too, I wanted to end with one quote from Albert Einstein. He said, the problems that face us can't be solved at the level of consciousness that created them. What we need is a shift in consciousness.